Hey, g'day guys, it's Calvin from the Cartoon Company in New Zealand. Right behind me, a lot of guys might think it's just a dirty old beaten up New Zealand farmer's Hilux. But this particular Hilux has had some Cartoon Company loving. Now some of you around the world don't actually get this shape of Hilux. And some of you actually get it as a different vehicle. It's like a Vigo, I think they call it. When this one came to me, it had the standard 3-litre turbo diesel engine. And they suffer the fate, as many of these engines do at high Ks. They're like this one over here. The truck started its life with one of these. So that's a 1KD 3-litre turbo diesel engine. If you want the proper designation, it's a 1KD FTV. This is also a KUN26. So 3-litre common rail turbocharged diesel engine. I think they make about 120 kilowatts in this form. The same engine in a Hi-Ace is just over 100. And they suffer this fate. "75% of the engine's really good. 400 even. And the last one's got nothing. And this is why we're seeing these trucks to do swaps on, because the engine's getting sort of 250,000 Ks and it's failing. So we get in and we do our standard Cartoon Company process, and we pull out that turbo diesel engine, and in goes a V8 of some sort. And what we're going to do after this introduction, over the next many weeks, I've got the process of fitting a 3uz engine into this Hilux. The actual start to finish of building this truck. And if you enjoy that, it'd be great if you push the like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Share the video and make a comment. And just to make things interesting, once we finish this one, I'm turning to the dark side. We're going to do another one of this shape in 2-wheel drive, again with a V8, but possibly not quite the Cartoon Company normal. I'm not so biased. As long as it's got 8 cylinders, I'm all good. Now if you're thinking it's just a beaten up Hilux, it's because it's a beaten up Hilux. But the value for some of these vehicles is not in having the tool sitting in the shed, it's for getting out and using it. The young man that drives this Hilux, or is going to be driving this Hilux, he's a shearer, so he takes woolly little sheep. And I would have done this in a sheep's paddock, but we've only got 2 woolly sheep on the farm that started little, and now they're bigger and woolly. And if he gets a chance, when he picks up his truck tomorrow, he's going to bring his shearing plant, and he's going to shear our lamb roasts, which as you can see are nice and friendly. The love makes them taste better. So externally it looks just like a Hilux. Inside it looks just like a Hilux. There's the normal 5-speed transmission in it. Dash wise looks all normal. If I turn the key on, everything works just as it should. Check lights, temp gauges, of course the fuel gauges. But there's something different about its sound. And if we revved the diesel like that, it'd throw a rod out the side pretty quickly. So under the bonnet, we have a 3uz 4.3 Toyota V8. We fitted it in through the factory air filter system. That's factory Toyota from the 3uz. Modified one of those for there and had it plastic welded into the factory airbox. That means accessories like snorkels will go straight onto this truck. And this airbox is plenty. We've tested them up to 350 horsepower, which is more than this is. That's wheel horsepower, which is more than this is producing. Radiator, standard, but the biggest version we can get. And out the front, we've still got the air conditioning radiator. There's a spa fan tucked in the front and a cooler for the power steer. If you've seen the engine bay of one of these, or noticed the one earlier, the bottle has switched sides. As you can see with the wiring loom, we've actually finished it in Raychem motorsport heat shrink, so it's really tough, and inside is Tefsol wire. In the fuse box, couple of extra relays for the fans. There's some other bits and pieces we've done in there as well. It all goes through the factory stock standard grommet into the cabin. So tucked in here behind the glove box, we have a Link Thunder ECU and a factory ECU as well, which is ensuring that the temp gauge and some of the air conditioning functions work just as standard. Yes, air conditioning is working like stock. And on this one, the 3uz AC compressor has been used with a bit of help from that Link Thunder. To make it all fit in here, we did perform a body lift on the vehicle. So under here, we've got some rubber guards, which means we can't really see what's going on in there. I don't really feel like lying on the ground in the hay paddock, which is tomorrow's job as well. So I think we're going to head to the workshop. Let's slam it up on the hoist, have a quick look underneath. I want to do the final bolt check as well before it goes back to its owner. Before we shut the bonnet down, there's the certification plate showing that it's been inspected by a suitably qualified engineer, making it all legal, and every modification is listed on there. In the cabin department, it really is just a standard Hilux, and that's what I was going for. Yes, four-wheel drive works. Yes, the air conditioning works. The radio works. There's a bit more bass coming out of the back than I quite expected, actually. Seems the back wheels don't always get traction though. So under here, it's got some spaces for the suspension. We actually had to drop them down. They were too tall and we had springs clashing on arms. And we've built our big, thick rubber guards just to protect the engine from as much dirt as we can. Tyres, well, we actually changed wheels partway through. It came in, it had 17s, we've gone back to 16s, so that's what it's suited for, giving better choice in four-wheel drive tyres. Of course, running the road tyres at the moment. So under here, there's the big dash cover, so you can't really see a whole lot. There is a front sump fitted on the 3uz, but it's still got the factory 3uz oil filter housing. Can we see anything? Oh, the bottom hose is one of my favourites. A Sora, UZZ30 Sora. Suspension, apart from the extension on the top, is all pretty much standard. Going back here. Now this one has got the electronic engagement. There's actually a motor right there for the four-wheel drive, and that stayed in place. We've got the standard 3uz exhaust manifolds. Running back to, they've had the 3-bolt flange removed, and we've popped a 2-bolt on. Twin wideband sensors. Down the exhaust, again something to do with that legality thing, we've got catalytic converter. We come back just in a 2.5-inch exhaust to a big stainless steel muffler, it's packed and chambered, and then out the back. As with any conversion, there's always extras. This one was stopping the oil leaking up from the diff around here. Some rear shocks because they were leaking, and a rebuild on the front brakes. The fuel system. Now I've done a few of these now, and we have tried in the past. We have used the factory V6 pump. They're not the best. They run out when you start getting a bit more power out of them at the top end. They do run out of fuel. So we've switched over to running a 240 litre an hour in-tank pump. We get the petrol sender unit because it's got different sizes on the top compared to the diesels, and that fits directly into the factory tank. We then run a fuel filter with a built-in regulator, and that means there's only a single line running up to the front of the vehicle for the fueling. These run the big gearbox, the R151F box. You'll see there's the drain plug out the side. So that's typical of a Toyota big box, instead of out the bottom for the small box. They're our own mount, universal designed mounts. With a lot of these jobs, I start with our universal kit set. I sometimes call them my race mount kit set, but they're actually just a universal kit set. Some bits of steel already cut out, ready to make into mounts that suit these vehicles, and allows us lots of different positions, and we very quickly make up a set of engine mounts for them. That's all showed in our videos. Right here, drive shaft hoops to make it legal. Because it's a four-wheel drive, we go overboard on the back one. So it gets a new bar member added through from the factory cross members, and then 2 hoops added to support both that universal and the slip joint, which is tucked in there. For the front one, we weld in again another member with a drive shaft hoop to suit. Because we've done a body lift on it, which allowed us to use the front sump a lot easier, we would have had clashing. We can make them work without a lift, but it's much easier to do a body lift. It also means that we move the gearbox up as well. So we built a spacer, moved the whole gearbox, remount that. So what does it drive like? Let's go out on the open road and see how it handles. So the 3uz, of course, is a drive-by-wire engine. We've utilised the drive-by-wire pedal from the Hilux. It works perfectly with the Link ECU, but it also would have worked fine if we had to use the stock ECU as well, because the calibrations between the stock pedal and the 3uz ECU are beautiful. They integrate really well. So we're sitting here cruising at 100 k's an hour at 2,500 RPM. The speedo is calibrated via the Link ECU, and the tacho is also being controlled by the Link. And then I change into 5th gear. 100 k's an hour, we're doing 2,000 RPM. We're just going to climb up this bit of a hill here. A lot of people say that the UZ series aren't that torquey. With the 3uz, with the VVTi working, they're plenty torquey enough for this sort of vehicle. They don't produce so much power that they're going to break it. Because of the gearing though, and of course we've lost the torque converter, if I really wanted to get up this hill quickly, I'd use 4th, bringing the revs up to about 2.5. But at the moment I'm sitting in 5th gear. I'm maintaining 100 k's an hour at 2,000 RPM. Here we go, coming over the top of the hill. We just accelerate off gradually here. First gear, we're doing 40 k's an hour, I'm changing gear at 4,000 RPM. We'll use all the revs in 2nd. And we're doing 100 k's in 2nd gear without hitting the rev limiter. I'm not going to test the rest of the revs and the rest of the gears because I would like to keep my license. My goal with this truck is to build a truck that Toyota would have built. To make it look as factory as possible and to give the customer a good, reliable truck that's going to work for a long time. And I think we've got there. Another thing that's really, really important to me is making sure that this vehicle is pleasant to drive. Hence it's not really loud, so we can talk to each other, talk to passengers, and enjoy driving it without being worn out by something that's really noisy. I built it to be driven. I didn't build it to be put in a guy's shed and looked at because it's pretty. I don't mind that it's a bit beaten up, and I hope he's going to use it, and if it gets beaten up a bit more, well that's good because the man's getting some enjoyment out of using this truck. When the track gets a little bit rougher, four-wheel drive does work like it's meant to. So I'm ticking along here, just on 1000 RPM, second gear in 4-wheel drive high. And when the track gets a little bit trickier, we got 4-wheel drive low. Remembering that I'm also on road tyres. I'm creeping up here just on 1000 RPM. No issues at all. So this one's nice and quiet at 100 k's an hour, but when you step on the loud pedal and you use all of the revs, it does make quite a bit of noise. Because it's controlled by the Link ECU, the rev limit here, stationary, isn't as high as when it's on the road, and that's why it does well more than 100 k's an hour, about 115 in second gear. I was on a closed road, I promise. Seems I got a bit close to the bushes. With a job like this, it was definitely a team effort. So there's a few people I'd like to thank. I'd like to thank David, the owner of the truck, for giving me the opportunity to build this truck. It's been a really enjoyable process, and I'm really, really happy with the product that we've produced. The man pulling most of the spanners, Jason, he's been coming down, putting up with me, and he's worked for me twice before. This is the third time. He's been helping me out. And so a big thanks to him. Bronwyn in the office, if anyone's dealt with Bronwyn, extremely efficient, and she tries to keep me in line, which is no small task on its own. I'd also like to thank the guys that did the exhaust for me. We just simply didn't have time, and it made sense to outsource that. And those little bits and pieces of welding and the hydraulic lines, there's another guy a bit like me who does welding and engineering work, and he's just across the road. For me, just across the road's like probably about 8 k's down the road, but that's just across the road for here. And Colin the Cert Man for checking it out and making it all legal for us. Does a fantastic job, and I can't recommend the man enough. So I hope that's been helpful. If you have got this far, hey, it'd be great if you liked the video. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Share it with your mates, and look out for the other projects we've got coming up. So what have I forgot to tell you? There's going to be heaps, but that's why we've done a build series on this truck. Things like, oh, what have I forgotten? Spale fans, both of them, front and rear. We've got increased size on the clutch master that we do. I think we've extended, because we did the body lift, we've extended the fuel hose, bracketry, engine mounts. Oh, I've talked about engine mounts. Wiring, setting up the link, starting it for the first time. All that's included in the build series. It's going to be a great one. And I think it's going to be a series that's going to help a lot of people out. Even if you don't own one of these trucks, the process for me is all the same when you're doing an engine swap, when you're doing a conversion. You follow the same steps regardless of the body. Sure, some are specific as far as the actual details, but the process is exactly the same. So look out for the series. It's coming straight after this one for however many weeks it takes to get through it. Myself, I reckon I could live with one of these sort of trucks. I'd want an automatic transmission. I might like a little bit more grunt. I may or may not have one. But we've got to get through the 2-wheel drive version of one of these first, where I've gone to the dark side. Sorry guys that are into the UZs, but every now and then I like to play with the LS motors as well. So keep an eye out for that one. That one's well along. Well, let's get that build series out on this one. Hope that's been helpful to everyone. We'll talk to you again soon. Catch you later. Hey boys,